The following video was brought to you by Mouse Pounder. Mouse Pounder suggests the YouTube channel Nadertot. Nadertot actually has a fantastic video, again covering Deep Space Nine, and how the two-part episode Past Tense is a disturbing look at our possible future. I highly recommend checking it out. It is also brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. With the Star Wars movies done, for a bit at least, it seems like a good time to rank all 12 of them.
Don't get me wrong. Obi-Wan is a great mentor. In some ways. A lot of ways. I'm really ahead of him.
That must be frustrating.
It's worse. He's overly critical. He never listens. He doesn't understand. It's not fair.
The prequels are plagued with problems, and all of them are on full display in Attack of the Clones. This is the first movie where Lucas really decided to lean into using computers for pretty much everything. Almost the entire movie is actors on a green screen, and it shows. Yes, he pushed effects forward in this movie, and they won't be as good as they are now if Lucas didn't push them here. Doesn't make this movie any better to look at. It's a collection of actors shot in the most boring way possible with computer crap thrown around them. The dialogue is awful, the acting is stilted. The only thing this movie has over episode 1 is a lot less Jar Jar Binks. Is that enough to make it a better movie? Absolutely not.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
What's the matter? You got some sand in your vagina?
I am all the Sith.
And I... I'm all the Jedi.
This movie is a muddled mess. So much feels like a reaction to the previous movie, except it doesn't know how to react to that movie. Does it respectfully continue that story or attempt to ignore it? And this movie tries to do both, which is impossible and makes Rise of Skywalker a complete mess, having a nice collection of major events that get reset within the movie. Unresolved storylines, story ideas that aren't even fully formed. All they needed to happen was make a good Star Wars movie. They don't have to acknowledge or disregard what came before it, just be good on its own merits. Instead, it tried to make all the fans happy, and rather than give the fans a good film, they made a half-ass mess.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Help. A youngling? And who are you supposed to be?
I'm Ahsoka. Master Yoda sent me.
It seems almost unfair to even count this. It's really just a pilot episode, but for some reason it was released to theaters, so it's an official in-canon Star Wars movie. I think Ahsoka Tano and Ventress are intriguing characters to add to the Star Wars mythology. Overall, the story is very forgettable though. It's convoluted about the Republic trying to save Jabba's son while the Separatists are trying to kill his son and frame the Jedi for it. It does have very minor arcs for Anakin and Ahsoka, which is nice, but it is literally packed with action. The fact that the action is clearly there to pad the runtime is painfully apparent. As a pilot, I would consider it a rough start. As a movie, it's simply not good.
After all these years, my most trusted of assassins has finally failed.
I am sorry, Your Highness. It will not happen again.
I know. Take him away and use him for spare parts.
No.
I can't believe that just fucking happened!
I need a midichlorian count.
The reading is off the chart. Over 20,000.
Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count that high.
No Jedi has.
It's true that this movie isn't as bad as people make it out to be. It's also true this movie is very much a bad movie. While there's a lot of outdated CGI here, Lucas still used largely practical effects whenever possible. So this movie looks a lot better than the other prequels. Liam Neeson is not given enough credit here as he should. Sure, his character is written just as poorly as everyone else, but he adds a lot of credibility to the role simply through his performance. This is also a big early action role for him, predating Taken by 8 years. Ian McDiarmid, Frank Oz, and to a lesser degree Samuel L. Jackson also managed to elevate their characters through their performance. Unfortunately, Jake Lloyd is a terrible child Anakin. Natalie Portman never found her rhythm with the dialogue, and Ewan McGregor would get better with each movie, but is at his worst here. Plus, Jar Jar Binks is very much present here.
If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. I will find you, and I will kill you.
You're thinking you people gonna die?
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
It's true that this is the best of the prequels and a solid improvement over the last two, but still not good. Ewan McGregor really gets into the rhythm and sells Obi-Wan this time. You know he's doing a good job when he says some really stupid lines with a straight face. Seeing the death of the Jedi is actually rather sad. The lightsaber battles are fast-paced and exciting, though they lack the emotion from the original trilogy. Ian McDiarmid gets to really chew the scenery here, and it's always a delight to see that. Still, outdated CGI hurt this one. I guess Anakin and Obi-Wan are using Force powers to keep from being cooked alive at the end. FYI, unless you're in a Mario game, just avoiding the lava is not enough to avoid getting burned. There is fun to be had here, mainly through making fun of the movie. It's still not good though.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
What's your name, son?
Han.
What? Who are your people?
I don't have people. I'm alone.
Solo.
Was anyone really interested in a Han Solo prequel story? He starts out a smuggler and honestly not a good guy, and becomes a good guy as we see him in the original movie. That's his entire arc in the original movie. So what's the prequel movie about? How he becomes not a good guy? Well, kind of. It's weird how much this movie seems based around the idea of giving Han a reason to want to shoot first. When this movie was in development, the only reason I cared was because Phil Lord and Chris Miller were going to be behind it. They took properties that shouldn't work like 21 Jump Street and Lego Movie and an animated Spider-Man and turned them into really unique ideas and solid to great movies. Having them involved in iffy Star Wars ideas sounds perfect. But Disney didn't like what they did, so they junked their movie and had Ron Howard shoot this generic, lifeless one instead. It's not terrible, but my level of ambivalence towards this movie is astronomical.
It's a smart move, kid. For once, I would have killed you.
The question is what choice? Run, hide, plead for mercy, scatter your forces. You give way to an enemy this evil with this much power, and you condemn the galaxy to an eternity of submission.
This is the first movie I would consider good on this list. There's just too much to enjoy in this movie. At the same time, there's a lot of stupid stuff too. This is perhaps the best looking Star Wars movie. It really embraces the look of the original films, but adds a grittiness to it. The world feels very Star Wars, but also very lived in. A big negative is Jen Erso and Cassian Andor. These are the two biggest characters in the movie, and yet I really don't care about either of them. Maybe a little bit for Jen, but that's largely because we spend so much time with her learning her backstory. Cassian is about as engaging to me as some new white wallpaper. Saw Gerrera is cool, but this whole staying on the planet to die when he could just leave was some stupid shit. There was no reason for him to stay. It's obvious this is because of some rewrites, and they end up with no reason for him to die, so they just have him decide to die for no reason. Anyways, the characters that really save the movie are K2SO and Shuret. Alan Tudyk and Donnie Yen are great in this movie and infuse more into their characters with limited screen time than we give Jen and Cassian. Plus, that Vader scene at the end is amazing. I don't even care that Vader could easily just use the Force to grab the plans from this guy. This scene is so badass, I'll forgive a little wonkiness. Overall, enough good to make this an enjoyable movie.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director. Obi-Wan once thought as you do. You don't know the power of the dark side.
I will not turn, and you'll be forced to kill me.
If that is your destiny.
Growing up, this was my favorite Star Wars movie. It had a bit of a darker tone than the first movie, but also had a happy ending. As I've grown, my appreciation has diminished. It's honestly better than it has any right to be. There's this huge first act at Jabba's palace and a sail barge that exists just to get the main story back on track, and once it's done, we go to a second act that is practically a completely different movie than the rest. Yet it still works. Yes, the Ewoks are an easy toy cash-in, but the final space battle and lightsaber duel between Luke and Vader includes some of the best moments Star Wars has to offer. Despite its flaws, still a great movie.
You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
In Jedi's the most insulting installment, because Vader's beautiful black visage is sullied when he pulls off his mask to reveal a feeble, crusty old white man.
Chewie, we're home.
This is an interesting entry. In many ways, it's beat for beat like the original 1977 Star Wars. I actually prefer The Force Awakens to the special edition of the original. The goal here was to bring Star Wars back to its roots and let people know the prequels weren't coming back. In that, it succeeded and introduced us to Rey and Finn, two characters that seem to have exciting futures planned for them. This is one of the best looking Star Wars movies outside The Last Jedi and Rogue One, and while the narrative was similar to the original, it was also clear and concise. The characters have clear goals and they are working towards accomplishing those goals. It'd be nice if we got more of a sense of what the New Republic was before it was simply blasted away, and the new Super Death Star feels incredibly overdone. Still, an enjoyable entry and a great start for the sequel trilogy.
People are counting on us. The galaxy is counting on us. Solo, we'll figure it out. We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works. Close your eyes. Reach out.
I feel something.
You feel it?
Yes, I feel it.
That's the Force.
Really?
Wow, it must be really strong
Oh,
with
I've
you.
never felt any... Ow!
I am ready for your hate, because while this movie does have missteps, for every fairly minor misstep Rian Johnson does, he also does something bold and exciting that is amazing. Johnson knew how to weave twists in this movie, yet still have it all feel natural for the characters. Kylo Ren kills Snoke because he is nothing more than a distraction. Everyone is asking who Snoke is, ignoring the fact Palpatine didn't get any background until the prequels. Snoke is nothing more than a tool to position Kylo as the villain of the trilogy. Rey's parentage is an often discussed thing in fandom. Rian Johnson literally gave us the only twist that was truly unexpected. Honestly, seeing how they handled her being a Palpatine would have been far better if they left her a nobody. Sure, Finn, Rose, and Poe have weaker storylines, but Rey, Luke, and Kylo Ren have amazing storylines that more than make up for any of the shortcomings of the others. The Last Jedi is easily the best Star Wars movie since the original trilogy.
Folly. Failure also. Yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher, failure is.
I want to come with you to Alderaan. There's nothing for me here now. I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
Well, remember how I said I like The Force Awakens more than the special edition of the original? Well, the same does not apply for the original. This is an incredibly well-paced movie with likable characters dealing with a giant planet-destroying weapon, and somehow the whole apocalyptic endeavor is a ton of fun to watch. This movie has some great special effects that have aged well, and the special edition really takes away from that. To add insult to injury, the computer graphics on the special edition have aged incredibly poorly. Star Wars was the beginning of a new age in filmmaking. The blockbuster as we now know it had been born, and when you watch this movie, you understand why it gets so much praise. 1977's Star Wars is simply a great movie.
Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
And Tashi Station is proud to present the Power Converters! Oh yeah!
Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? Luminous beings, Zoe, not this crude matter.
When it comes to sequels that are better than the original, there are two classic examples, The Empire Strikes Back and The Godfather Part 2. Unlike The Godfather Part 2, The Empire Strikes Back is truly better than the original. That's right, Godfather 2 fans, come at me. This does everything a sequel should do. It takes the characters as they were at the end of the last movie and puts them on a much darker path and forces them to face their greatest fears. It also manages to introduce iconic new characters such as Yoda, Lando Calrissian, and Boba Fett. Well, technically, Boba was introduced in the holiday special, but we don't speak of that. The first movie showed us our plucky heroes face impossible odds and win despite everything against them. Here, the heroes are not as plucky as they once were and face impossible odds and lose. Perhaps the best example ever of how to handle a middle chapter.
But I want them alive. No disintegrations.
As you wish. When he was saying as you wish, what he meant was, I love you.
Right.
There it is, every Star Wars movie ranked. What is your ranking?
We celebrate a day of peace, a day of harmony.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.
Pain don't hurt.